Hey there, welcome to Mike's Collection, episode 228. I'm Mike, and the part of my collection that I'm talking about today is just continuing the countdown to my top 20 action figures of 2022. This is episode 5 of a series of videos I've been doing, where I've been taking every action figure I bought this year, putting it on my desk, and then eliminating the figures that will not make my best of the year list. This is just a way of kind of running down everything I purchased this year. And, in past years, I've just posted my top 20 figures of the year, and I just showed you the 20. This year, I wanted to show you the whole thought process on how I get down from every figure I bought this year, which there were a lot, just down to my final 20. So hopefully you enjoy the ride. If you enjoy this video and you haven't watched the previous 4 videos, maybe go back and check them out. And then you'll be all ready to watch the final video at the end of the year as we get down to the best of the year. So, without further ado, why don't we jump into this new set of 60 action figures. So here we have another 60 figures, and we're ready to start eliminating. So, as per usual, let's start with the little guys in the front, which are primarily reaction figures from Super 7. So, like right here, you see I've got 3 Cobra Troopers. Now, these guys are a little different from the standard Cobra Troopers that we've received before because they all have these little jet packs on. We've got 2 of them that are, I'm pretty sure these 2 figures are identical, and then we've got 1 African-American guy there as well. Now, these guys are cool. If you've watched my other videos, you know I like the Cobra Troopers. I already put the glow-in-the-dark Cobra Trooper ahead to the next round for contention. These guys here, they're just, the fact that they have jetpacks don't differentiate them enough from the Cobra Troopers we got last year. So all 3 of these guys are going to go. Now we have another Cobra Trooper here that was released this year, and this is the female Cobra Trooper. So you can see here, she's got like little blonde hair poking out from behind her helmet, and she has a ponytail in the back. So this is a really cool addition. I'm glad that they gave us the female Trooper. And like all of their Trooper types, she was available with different skin colors and different hairstyles. For now, I only went with this one here, the blonde one with the ponytail. I'll probably get more when there's an opportunity to grab some on sale. But as much as I'm glad that we have them, again, she's just a little too plain and a little too similar to figures we've received before. So she's going to go. This here is one of Hasbro's Marvel Legends, I guess we'll call them Marvel Legends Retro, done in the reaction figure style. So this is Daredevil, great little figure, but I'm pretty sure this was a 2021 release, so we're going to have to get rid of him. Zartan, so another G.I. Joe reaction figure. This is a great little reaction figure. In his backpack, he even has like a mask that you can put over his face, just like the vintage G.I. Joe figure. It's really cool. I like it a lot. It looks like Zartan jumped right out of the cartoon for this figure. However, considering all the other awesome toys I've got coming up, Zartan's not going to make the cut either. Let's jump over here. Well, before we get to these other G.I. Joes, let's just address Leonardo. I really wanted to get the Super 7 Ultimate Samurai Leo this year. I thought it looked really cool, but it's just too expensive. I couldn't justify spending $75 to $80 on Leonardo in a variant costume because I already have the standard Leo. So I grabbed this reaction figure version of it to kind of scratch that itch, but it's nowhere near as impressive as the Ultimate figure was. So, it's a fine little, addition to my collection, but nothing great. So he's gone. So here's some more reaction figures. We've got CoverGirl there, and this is a cool figure because it's based on her animated look. Most of the other CoverGirl figures we've gotten over the years haven't been blonde like this. They've all had like brown hair. So it's really cool to get this animated, accurate one, but, not neat enough to get to my best of list. Her outfit is rather plain. It's kind of a plain figure, really. Now here we've got Shipwreck. Now this is standard Shipwreck. You see he's got his little sailor suit on. He's got Polly the parrot on his shoulder. Now we also got Shipwreck in Cobra disguise. He's also got Polly on his shoulder. That's kind of cool. Along with him, we've got Snake Eyes in Cobra disguise with his Wolf Timber. So that was really cool to get these guys. But it's very like episode specific. It's very like niche little thing. Definitely not essential to your collections. So these 2 in the Cobra disguises are going to go. And as great as I think Shipwreck is, it's another one that like leapt right out of the animation. I think I'm going to have to let him go too. If you watched my past videos, you know that reaction figure Duke has already been pushed through to the next round. So he's kind of there representing the reaction figure G.I. Joes. These guys here I both like quite a bit. So this is the Cobra Bat. And for reaction figures, which are typically known for being pretty simple, this guy's actually kind of complicated in that he's got a lot of weapons. You see, he's holding 2 different guns. But just like the retro figure, he's got interchangeable hands, so you can change his hands. He's got 3 alternate hands. He's got a claw, like a flamethrower, and a grenade launcher. So very cool. They packed a lot into this little figure. I'm not sure he'll make it through, but I think I'll hold on to him for a second. I'm not ready to eliminate him yet. Now this here is a Cobra security robot. This is again from like one episode. This thing appeared in a cartoon for about 30 seconds. So we never got an action figure from before. I think it's really cool that Super 7 gave us this action figure this year as part of a box set with the Jetpack Cobra Troopers and the G.I. Joes in Cobra disguise. It was a San Diego exclusive. It was pretty pricey. He's really cool. I might hold on to him for a minute. Here's Sunstreaker from Transformers War for Cybertron. I'm glad I was able to track down this figure this year, but he is a 2021 or possibly even a 2020 release. So he's eliminated. He's not eligible. And let's stick to Transformers for a second. So we've got Wild Rider here. So this is one of the Stunticons. This is part of the Transformers Legacy line. I needed this guy in my collection, but I wasn't really impressed with this figure. It's a little blocky. It doesn't move very well. It's just not particularly interesting looking. So Wild Rider is going to go, and hopefully he doesn't knock a bunch of figures over with him when he goes. Who else do I want to talk about? So I've got a couple other reaction figures here. Maybe first I'll take a look at Moon Knight. So this is another one of Hasbro's Marvel Legends Retro. Moon Knight's really cool. This is a fun little figure, but it's just a little too plain to go forward, I think. So we're going to eliminate him. Now this here is Oogie Boogie from Nightmare Before Christmas. And I've always loved that character. And I was really excited to get this reaction figure because of how like screen accurate it looks. There's nothing like simplified about him like you usually expect to see on a reaction figure. And he does look great. However, I was surprised at how lightweight he is. He feels kind of cheap because he's totally hollow. Like I feel like I could crack him open if I squeezed him like a walnut or something. And that really kind of makes him, just diminishes the figure a little bit. Like it still looks good. It's a nice display piece, but just how it feels so kind of brittle. So yeah, when I first planned to buy this figure, I thought it might actually make my best of list just based on its looks alone. But quality-wise, I think I'm just going to have to let it go. So, sorry, Oogie Boogie. Alright, so we cleared out pretty much all the reaction figures except for these 2 Cobra robots. So we'll come back to them later. Over here, I've got a couple of Marvel Legends that are automatically disqualified. This is Wen Wu and I forget her name, Xing Ling or something. They're from the Shang-Chi movie. I don't typically buy a lot of MCU, like live action figures. I prefer the comic-based ones. So I passed on these guys when they first came out last year. But I got them on sale this year, so I picked them up. They're cool figures, both really well made, really good likenesses to the actors, but not toy of the year for me, definitely. Alright, what else do we got here? You see, I got a good variety of stuff here. This is the episode where G.I. Joe really kicks off. G.I. Joe Classified is probably my favorite toy line to collect right now. And as I've been going through these videos, there have been very few G.I. Joes in them. But of the Joes that I have reviewed, quite a few of them have got through the next round. So far, Alley Viper, Cobra Bat, Spirit, Crocmaster, and that might be it. But still, that's a pretty good representation of G.I. Joe. And you can see there's a lot of Joes in here. And I'm pretty sure quite a few more are going to get through to the next round. But maybe we'll talk about Masters of the Universe. But actually, before I can get to them, why don't we just deal with this Pyroraptor from Jurassic World Dominion. I really liked the Pyroraptor in the movie just because I like seeing feathered dinosaurs, and there's not too many feathered dinosaur action figures out there yet. So, yeah, this guy's cool. But it's kind of a simple figure. It doesn't move very well. You can see there's like no articulation in his legs at all. It feels more like a children's toy than a collector's toy, but I just picked it up so I could have him in my collection. But yeah, it's not a great figure, so he's going to go. So Masters of the Universe. We've got Pighead from the Sunman line added here. And then we've got Skeletor and He-Man. This Skeletor and He-Man are based on the 2002 cartoon and reboot, where it was very anime inspired. I really liked the 2002 cartoon and toy line, so I was pretty stoked to get these figures. He-Man more so than Skeletor. I feel Skeletor looks... I don't feel this look as an improvement to his original design. His head looks a little smaller here. And so it's a cool figure, cool accessories. I like his new sword and all that stuff. But it's not a best of figure for me. In another year, this He-Man maybe could have got through. I really like this look of He-Man, and I do think it is an improvement over his original look. I was never a big fan of He-Man's original face sculpt. So, yeah, I really like this design. Although, spoiler alert, in my next video, I'm going to have the snake armor version of this He-Man coming up. And I think of the two of them, that one would probably have a better chance. I don't know if it will advance, but knowing that it might in my next video, I think I'm going to have to let this guy go as well. Okay, so now let's take a look at Pighead. Now he's a fun new character. You know, it's nice to get some new figures in the Masters of the Universe line, not just redos of figures that I've been getting for decades. But, you know, as fun as he is, he's lacking that nostalgic attachment that those retro kind of old school figures have. So with no nostalgia attached to him, he's not cool enough to find his way into my heart and into my best action figures of the year. So fun figure. I love the pastel kind of colors and everything on him, but he's not toy of the year. So the last Masters of the Universe figure that I have here is Mantenna. Now this guy here, I should tell you, I've got a bit of a bias because ever since I was a little kid, this is my second favorite Masters of the Universe character. Merman was number one, but Mantenna was always close behind him. I loved my vintage Mantenna figure. This one here looks a lot like that vintage figure, except they actually gave him 4 legs, where the vintage figure just had 2 legs that were kind of sculpted to look like 4 legs. You'll see what I'm talking about when I do like a little split screen here or something. But yeah, so this figure, like a lot of these Masters of the Universe Origins figures, I love it, but I say, you know what, it's just too similar to the one I had as a kid, so I'm not sure if it brings anything new to the table. The fact that this guy has the split legs, it really elevates this figure from the vintage one. So I think he deserves to stick around at least for a little while longer for further consideration. I should show you, he still has that eyeball feature too. How cool is that? So he's just a lot of fun. I've got this lone little Ninja Turtle here. This is the last Ronin figure. This figure was available in color and also in black and white. I just got this thing not too long ago, and I love it. I think it looks fantastic. I love the black and white. That kind of cross-hatching all over him, so he looks like a sketch. He's got lots of weapons, lots of accessories. I don't know. He's great. So, yeah, he's definitely a contender. He's not going anywhere just yet. So let me put him over here with these other guys that I'm thinking about. Who do I want to talk about next? Maybe we'll talk about some Marvel Legends. So here's Sentry. Now Sentry is a character I have mixed feelings about him. He's okay. He's kind of bland. You know, he's kind of a Superman knockoff. Some writers have tried to do some interesting stuff with him. And yeah, you know, I don't mind him, but at the same time, he's never really been in a storyline that really blew me away. His costume is kind of bland, so I actually passed on the original Sentry figure that was released years ago, but that's because I wasn't really all in on Marvel Legends at that time. Now that I really am all in on Marvel Legends, and I have hundreds of them, I did want Sentry in my collection, and I'm glad that they re-released him, because this one is superior to the previous one in every way. So he's bright, he's big, I like his flowing hair, it's a really nice head sculpt and everything. Cool figure. But the character just, doesn't interest me enough. So he's not, a contender for me for Toy of the Year. Over here, so I was really excited to get Madam Hydra / Viper this year. She's a cool figure. It's well done. I like the face sculpt on her and everything. But it's kind of a, it's a simple figure. Like there's nothing special on the body. Like it's a body we've seen a million times. Like her costume isn't sculpted. It's just kind of like painted on. She's got really flimsy. I don't know if you can see her guns there, but the guns are really like bent and stuff. She doesn't have double, articulation on her elbows that most newer figures do. She's just, she's perfectly satisfactory, but she's not, toy of the year. So we're going to get rid of Viper. Now, Iron Spider-Man. This is a cool figure. It's a cool look. This is from when Spider-Man unmasked during the Civil War storyline, and by doing so, he basically took a side with Iron Man. And to kind of repay him for that, Iron Man gave him this Iron Spider-Man suit that had all these enhancements, including these crazy legs, which are fun, but at the same time, they're kind of unwieldy. Like, it's hard to know what to do with them. They take up a ton of room. Like, when I put them on my shelf, you can see how these things just take up space. And so my figures are usually pretty packed pretty tightly. And so figures like this kind of get on my nerves. Now, I could take the extra arms off of him. They kind of just plug out of his back. But then that kind of, takes away from this, what was special about this costume. Now, I really like the colors. I really like the design. I really like how it's got that metallic sheen. But, I've got the black and white suit Spider-Man already going through the next round. And I think that's a better figure than this one. I don't see this guy going through. Nice figure, though. I don't have many Star Wars Black Series to talk about. I didn't buy many of them at all this year, to be honest with you. I've got 2 of them here, I think. Princess Leia, she's going to go through. Maybe not to the next round, but I'm not eliminating her yet. This one here is a really great figure. It's based on her look from the Marvel comic book series. So if you're wondering when did she wear this outfit, it's from the comic books. But I think it's really well done. And I just think this is the Princess Leia figure I've kind of always wanted. It's a Princess Leia that looks like you could actually have her run into battle. She doesn't have a dress on or a slave outfit or her winter jacket. This is like a Princess Leia that's ready to battle on any planet. It's really good. The sculpt is nice. I like the stature of her. She's actually pretty short. So when you see her compared to some of these other male figures that are supposed to be in scale with her, she's quite small. But I think that's probably more accurate to Carrie Fisher's size. So, really cool figure. I like it a lot. So she's going to stick around. And the other Star Wars figure I have is this Wookiee black back here. Black Chrysantan, I think his name is. He's going to go, but I can't get to him yet. So we'll talk about him a bit more a little later. I kind of wanted to hold off on talking about the G.I. Joes, but they're kind of blocking me off from all the other figures in the back. So I think I have to. Every one of these G.I. Joes is basically a home run. This is Kamakura, Snake Eyes' ninja apprentice. I know he kind of looks like Archie here, but he does have a different mask, like an alternate head with a mask on it, which makes him look more ninja-like, but I actually kind of like the unmasked head. Here we have the twins. So we've got Zaymot, and his twin Tomax is over here. So you'll notice these guys are pretty much the same. They're supposed to be identical twins, except, their sashes and their shoulder pads and everything are on the opposite sides. I loved these guys when I was a kid. I was so stoked to get these guys in the classified format this year. Next up, we've got Stalker. He looks fantastic. He could be better. I wish his colors were a little more diverse. Like those 2 shades of green on his camo are a little too close. And there's not enough camo. Like if you look at his chest, there's really just that one splotch on it. But I really like how his beret comes off. He's got a cool design on his face. It's a really nice sculpt there. Great figure. Outback. This is really cool. When I was a kid, Outback had red hair and a white t-shirt. This is the European Tiger Force version that existed that I never knew about when I was a kid. But it's kind of surprising that we got that version first in the classified line. But I like it a lot. And you know what? I might even like it more than the red-haired version that we've got coming out. I just, there's something cool about the white hair. You don't get too many Joes that look that experienced, I guess. We got a Cobra Bat there, the Python Patrol Bat. We've got a bunch of Vipers. So you see I've got... These Vipers are basically identical, except one guy, you can see he's his neck there. He's Caucasian. The other one there in the back, he's got dark skin. And then I've got the Python Patrol Viper here with the kind of check pattern. And then the Viper, I think Viper Officer is what we call this guy, in the gray and maroon. So all great figures. And there's still more Joes back there that I'll get to momentarily. But oh man, so many great figures. And really, all of these guys could go through. I'm going to get rid of Stalker only because he does have some shortcomings with the camo. And I know that they're going to re-release this guy on a retro card next year. I had to have zero doubt. That's what they've done with a bunch of the other figures. So I bet they're going to give us a more 1982 accurate repaint, and I think that one will be better. So he's going to go. Kamakura, as cool as he is, he's just not going to go through. There's too much competition. Sorry, Kamakura. Now, when it comes to the twins, like I said, I love these guys. But as I've talked about before in past videos, when I was a kid, I have a brother, Doug, who's 2 years older than me. We shared a bedroom. We collected everything together. So every time I got a G.I. Joe, he got a G.I. Joe. Every time I got a Transformer, he got a Transformer. So all of those core collections were split down the middle when I was a kid. And when it came to Tomax and Xamot, who came together in a 2-pack, Doug got Xamot and I got Tomax. So Tomax is going to go through. He's pretty much a lock for the next round. But Tomax and Xamot are just too similar for me to put them both through. So even though probably a lot of people prefer Xamot because he's the guy with the scar on his face, that at least gives him something a little bit more interesting than Tomax has. Tomax is going through for me just because he's the one that I had as a kid, and he's the one I have the attachment to. Now, the Python Patrol Bat, he's cool. I like this figure a lot. But, we just got the original Bat earlier this year. He's already gone through to the next round from one of my other videos. And I think this paint scheme, while I still like it, it's inferior to the original design. So, the other Bat is already fighting his way through the next round. I don't see this one making it, so I'm going to cut the Python Patrol Bat. And now for the Viper, I don't think the Viper is going to get through. And that's going to mean 4 eliminations. All these guys are cool for various reasons. These two guys are cool. I like them, but they're way too similar to the Viper we got last year. Basically, they still have the same red, blue, and black costume. The colors are just a little more muted. They're not as bright. Now, they do have the gimmick of having the different skin tones and everything, which is cool. But it's a little bit of a been there, done that with those guys. So they're going to go. And if you've watched my videos where I reviewed the Vipers on their own, these goggles on their helmet drive me nuts. So no matter how they paint them up, I hate how these goggles just sit on there and they just fall off. And these guys tend to fall over and the goggles are always out of place. And that pisses me off. So that's why these Vipers, I have a little bit of a hard time with them. So all of the Vipers are going to go. Okay, so of the G.I. Joes we've got left, Tomax is a lock. He's going through the next round. Outback, I'm not 100% decided on him, but he probably will. This here is the Crimson Guard. This is Cobra's elite trooper that reports to Tomax and Xamot. This guy's awesome. I loved him as a kid. This one looks great. It pretty much took the design from 1985 and just made it bigger. It looks perfect. It looks just like how I remembered it from when I was a kid. Yeah, I don't know how he doesn't go through, so I think he's pretty much a lock as well. Now these two here, these ones are kind of interesting because these are called the Blue Ninjas. They came in a 2-pack, so we've got a male and a female figure. And these guys aren't really from the G.I. Joe lore. There have been some characters in the more recent comic books from IDW that feature the Blue Ninjas. But the Blue Ninjas are like cyborgs in the comic books. They don't look anything like these guys. Basically what Hasbro did here is they just took the existing red ninja figure that they gave us last year and repainted it blue. And then that's what this guy is. And then for the female figure, they just took the character of Akiko and they painted her body blue and gave her a new ninja head. So a lot of reused parts. and characters that just kind of seem thrown together without really any ties to the existing G.I. Joe mythology. And yet, I think this is a super successful pack. And one of the main reasons for that is they gave both these characters alternate heads with these, I don't know what you call them, let's say kabuki masks or something. But you see here, I've got the female displayed with her standard ninja head, which is pretty basic. She's got these kind of all white eyes, which leads me to believe she's got some sort of mystical background, like maybe she's undead or something, kind of like the hand ninjas in the Marvel Universe. So she's cool. The mask that she came with had like a fox head, and while it's neat, I didn't like it as much as this standard head. But for the male ninja, if I kept his standard ninja mask on, he would have looked just like the red ninja that's already on my shelf. So I really like giving him this devil mask that they gave us as an option. It looks really cool and totally changes the look of this figure. And it looks incredible. So, yeah, the female ninja, nice figure. But it's not going to get through. I don't think the male ninja is going to get through either, but I'm kind of... He looks so great. It's just he's got to compete a little bit with nostalgia because, like, if I put this ninja up against either of these guys or against the Bat or the Alley Viper or Crocmaster or Spirit, like, they all have a leg up on him. So even though I think this guy looks great, I love that mask. I think I might as well just get rid of him now. Sorry, buddy. And then that leaves us with Gung Ho. Now, Gung Ho, he's one of the more recognizable faces from G.I. Joe, I think. He's been around since the early days. I want to say it was either 83 or 84 that the figure first came out. And we got Gung Ho pretty early on in the classified line, except they changed the look of him quite a bit. He had a handlebar mustache. He had a green vest. He had a little mohawk. It was similar but different from the Gung Ho that we grew up with. But for this version here, which came on a retro card, this one is the vintage one just blown up to a larger size. They got the tattoo right, they got the mustache right, they got the vest right, the hat right. I didn't even think the first version was that big of a problem. Sure, I would have preferred it in blue or this weird turquoise color, just because, for nostalgia purposes, but I thought it was a pretty decent Gung Ho figure. It was only until... when I got this figure that I realized how much I needed this new Gung Ho compared to the last one. It's just so much better. The only thing with Gung Ho is he was never one of my favorite characters. Growing up, Doug had both versions of Gung Ho. He had this version as well as the version 2 that had him in his dress uniform. So, I always considered this one of Doug's guys. And to be honest, Doug had Outback as well, which is probably why I'm kind of holding back on him as well. I just don't have the same attachment to characters that I didn't play with myself when I was a kid. Even though I like these characters from the cartoon and from the comic books, and I've got plenty of Gung Ho figures in my collection now. But just as a kid, I viewed this as Doug's guy. But anyway, we'll think on it. Him and Outback are in the think about it pile. These guys are a lot thinking about it. What else we got? A couple more Marvel Legends here. This guy here, the Blue Marvel. Nice figure, but I don't know anything about this guy. I've never read a comic book with him. Costume's pretty boring. Nothing particularly super about this guy. I only bought him because I wanted to get the parts to build the Build-A-Figure from this wave, which was the controller, who we'll talk about in a second. So yeah, this guy doesn't do anything for me. Also, this Thor figure here, I didn't want to buy this Thor figure because it's just not my Thor. I like a little bit more of a classic Thor with a helmet, not a little tiara on his head. I don't like how Thor's eyes are all whited out here. Makes him look kind of creepy and alien. Otherwise, I like the look of the figure. But I have Thors in my collection, and this was by no means essential. But again, I had to buy him because I was trying to get the pieces to build the controller figure. And here's the controller. So you see here, I had to buy 6 different figures to get him. I think Madam Hydra was another one. Anyway, controller's really cool. I wanted to get him. I'm glad I got him. He's a big, bulky figure. And even though he cost me a lot of money because I had to buy all these other figures I didn't really want to get him, in the grand scheme of things, he's just kind of a plain character. I think he probably shares a lot of his body with Thanos, so he doesn't really bring a whole lot new to the table. He's always been a kind of a bland character. Plus, he's an Iron Man villain, and I don't really read Iron Man on the regular. It's not like a Spidey villain or something. So, yeah, I just don't have a huge attachment to this guy. I'm glad I got him. I wanted him, but he's not Toy of the Year for me. To my surprise, I like this Thor a lot more than I expected to, so I am glad I got him. Everything from the clear, translucent hammer with lightning effects to, like, just the body design on him. It's really well-made figure. I just wish he had a different head. I think this figure with a different head would be a home run, but that head is kind of holding him back, so he's going to go. There's another Marvel Legend there. This is Firelord. This is a guy I was pretty excited to get. He is one of the Heralds of Galactus, a regular foe and friend of Silver Surfer. And he's cool, but there's a couple things on him that are lacking. One of them being like his outfit here. See how it's just painted on? Like his belt, his shorts, the neck on his shirt. Like it's just painted. Like if there was a ridge there to show that it was sculpted, to show he was actually like wearing something. Like if that belt was sculpted, the shorts were sculpted. Like everything about him is just, it's like a flat basic body and they painted the design on him. Which isn't terrible. Like they do that with a lot of figures. But it definitely hinders Firelord from advancing. So, great figure, great character. Glad I got him. But not Toy of the Year. We've got a couple more Marvel Legends here. This one here is Mr. Hyde. And he was the Build-A-Figure from the Shang-Chi movie wave. So, I wanted Mr. Hyde because this is a comic-based character. He had nothing to do with the Shang-Chi movie. I don't really know why they paired him with that collection. But anyway, I wanted this character, but didn't want to buy the Shang-Chi characters. When I found them on sale this year, as I talked about earlier, I was able to mostly complete Mr. Hyde. You see now I have the head, the torso, the arms, and one leg. The other leg he's got is a spare from the Mr. Fix-It Build-A-Figure, which I also didn't complete. But because I was able to build him this year, he went from being in my spare parts bin to actually being on display in my collection. So it's like I added this figure, even though I did have a couple of his parts last year. But regardless, he was a 2021 release, so he doesn't qualify for this year's list. Now this lizard, this is the retro lizard, and he's supposed to look like, I don't know, partly the 90s Spider-Man cartoon lizard, but also, to me, he looks like just the classic Steve Ditko lizard from the very early days of the Spider-Man comic books. And I love it. It looks great. Compared to the other lizard that I have in my collection, which was really cool, but just way too contemporary and dinosaur looking, I love the retro look of this guy. Like, this guy's head sculpt is awesome. And he even had an alternate head sculpt, I think, with his tongue out and stuff, if you wanted to go with that. But it's this head sculpt here is what really wins me over. He came with a couple of these little experiments. So I've got him holding one of his beakers. He did come with another one as well. He's got a wired tail that's posable. The cape is nice and soft and pliable, so you can still pose him. And yeah, he's awesome. He's pretty much a lock for the next round too. Love this guy. Now I might as well talk about this guy. You've probably seen him sitting here, and you might be wondering, like, he seems kind of odd for this collection, and he really is. This is Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story, obviously. And as you'll notice, there's not like I have other Toy Story figures or other Disney figures. He really is kind of an odd thing for me to have picked up this year. But, I absolutely love the Toy Story movies. The first three are probably some of my favorite movies of all time. The fourth one, I don't know. I've only seen it once. Maybe I need to see it more, and I'll love that one just as much too. But anyway, this is such a fun character. And there's been a ton of Toy Story toys over the years, but most of them, rightfully so, are very geared towards children. So they have play features and light up buttons and all that sort of stuff. And so I never really felt the need to add Buzz Lightyear to my collection, even though I thought he was fun. But this here is from McFarlane Toys, and it's kind of like an adult collectible version of Buzz Lightyear. And so, they didn't change him too much, so he's still very recognizable as the Buzz Lightyear from the Toy Story movies. He's just got this kind of nice matte finish. He articulates well. He's got some nice detail. I really love the big feet on this guy. He's got a nice solid base to stand on, which he needs because he's very top heavy with his big thick torso, and he is heavy too. Like, he weighs a ton. So I don't know. When I got this figure, I was so impressed with it. I thought for sure it was going to make my best of the year list. But now that I've had it for a few months, and he has to compete with like these guys, I don't know if he's got what it takes to make it. But I'm not willing to cut him yet. So he's gonna stick around. So here's a couple. I've got this Transformer here. This is Clamp Down. He's really cool. It's a repaint of Sideswipe that I love. However, I have got this mold multiple times now. I've got it in red, blue, black, yellow, and now I've got it in white. It looks great in every color, but it's a little bit of been there, done that. The first one I got, I think, was probably 3 years ago. So it's kind of an old mold now, and this guy just doesn't really bring that much new to the table. So yeah, he's going to go. This here is a Gundam figure. I don't buy very many of them. One of them did get through to the next round already. I reviewed, or I talked about Heavy Arms, I think in the first video of this series. And Heavy Arms is great. This guy here, when I saw him online, I thought, I don't know who this character is, but he looks so cool. I want to add him to my collection. This is one of the figures that was a bigger disappointment this year. Like, sure, he still looks cool. Like, great design with that weirdly shaped head. But man, this figure feels delicate. Like, it feels like a little model kit. You move him around, his head falls off, his wings fall off. It's just, it's a cool design, but it's just not executed very well. So anyway, I won't go on and on about it. I wanted to like this figure. I really did, but it's just, it's not a toy of the year for sure. What else have we got here? Now this Sentinel, this is actually part of the Marvel Legends retro figures. So even though he is actually taller than most Marvel Legends, if I can bring Lizard back over here for a second. So Lizard here is from the 6-inch scale figures. This Sentinel is actually from the 3 3/4-inch scale figures, and yet he's a few inches taller than Lizard. But that makes sense because in the comic books, Sentinel is a giant character. So when you put him next to a 3 3/4-inch figure like this, now the scale kind of makes sense and he's a giant. So that's why he's kind of simple looking. Like, he's only got a few points of articulation, just like all the other Marvel figures. So he moves, at the legs, the arms, the head, and he's got these swivels at the glove there on the forearm. He came with an alternate head. And some extra weapons and stuff. And I'll be honest, I just love this guy. The Sentinel's always been a fun design. And this one here is just so basic and fun and great. He's going through the next round. So, him, Lizard, you guys are both locked, so you guys go over there. A few more Transformers to talk about. Now, in an earlier video, I put Blaster through to the next round, and he came with his little buddy. I don't know, it's escaping me right now. I can't remember if this is supposed to be Eject or Rewind. But whatever. So you get one of the little cassette buddies with Blaster, who turns into a Ghetto Blaster. So I already put the Blaster through to the next round in the red and yellow and gray color scheme. And also, in my very first video of this series, I put Shattered Glass Starscream through to the next round, which was Starscream painted in heroic colors of white and red. So what we've got here is Shattered Glass Blaster. So now they're taking a heroic character, and they've basically given him evil colors, because in the Shattered Glass universe, he's a bad guy. So now he's black and gray and blue and even Eject or whatever. And he went from blue to red. So they've kind of just swapped all his colors out. And he looks really good. I don't know. When I got this figure, I thought maybe he would go forward and the red and yellow one wouldn't. Just because as good as the red and yellow figure was, it was just, the color scheme I'm used to seeing since I was a kid. This one here is something fresh and new, and it still looks really good in these colors. However, I've now gone ahead and pushed the red one through, and I could go ahead and push this guy through as well and have them kind of face off in the final video. But looking at him now, I think it's clear that I like the red and yellow, the classic colors, better. So this is a great figure. It was definitely worth buying again in this new color scheme, but I'm going to go with the vintage colors. The vintage guy wins out. So that's a surprise even to me, because I really thought this guy was maybe going to go a little further. Now I've got two of the Red series Transformers. So Red stands for Robot Enhanced Design. It means these guys don't transform. And I love both these figures. They look great. Galvatron and Shockwave, two of my favorite Decepticons. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Like, they look so good. Like, I had a Galvatron on my best of list last year. But, you know, he was a transforming Galvatron, so he's got all the kibble that hangs off of him. He's got some, and he's got some joints that are a little weird, you know, to make up for the transformation. But this guy here, he's just so nice and clean. You know, there's no extra bits hanging off him that you don't need. He's great. Anyway, neither of these guys is getting eliminated, at least right now. I'm going to put them over here with the maybes. And I'm going to have to address them sooner than later because this video is running long. All right, let's talk about these guys in the back a little bit. This here is the Headless Horseman and his horse from the Four Horsemen Studios as part of their like Mythic Legions line. And he's awesome. He's definitely getting through the next round. There's not much point in going on about it. Like, this guy, I knew as soon as I got him, he was potentially my action figure of the year. So he's definitely going through to the next video, which will be the final 60, essentially. So he's definitely in my top 60. There's no question about that. This here's another Transformer. This is G-Axis. This is a character who was kind of popular in the UK Transformer comic book. So I wasn't really familiar with him when I was a kid. But he's a character that's important to the lore now, and I really like him. And I'm happy to get this figure of him. He's really cool and kind of unique, both in design and in color scheme. But this just isn't his year. There's just too many other good figures, and I just don't have that nostalgic attachment to G-Axis, so that's why he's going to go. Now, this here is a Venom figure that came in a 2-pack with this guy, Null. I don't know if I can get to him. I'm going to try and get him out of here. Alright, so this is Null and Venom. Now, this is kind of a more contemporary look for Venom. You see he's got these giant like bat wings. And this is a kind of a newer character from the comic books. This is basically the god of the symbiotes. So Venom and his whole species. And these guys came in a 2-pack together. And there's probably a lot of people out there that wanted this Venom with the wings and felt like forced to buy Null, who is kind of, you know, like, it's cool to get a new character, but he's not, I don't think he's particularly cool. For the god of the symbiotes, I kind of wish they went with something a little less generic. As this, like, this just looks like Dracula. My buddy Chad said it looked like, what's his face, Vigo from Ghostbusters 2, and I definitely see that as well. So, yeah, I wanted this guy because he's a new character. You know, he's never had a figure before, so I was glad to get Null. I'm just a Marvel junkie, and I want all the unique Marvel characters I can get, so I'm glad I got him. But he's the reason I bought the pack. I really didn't want the Venom, because I already have so many other Venoms in my collection. And I remember when I was buying it, the guy that sold it to me, he's like, oh yeah, you're buying it for Null? He's like, most people buy it for Venom, and when you open this pack up, you're going to really be impressed with this Venom. I bet you'll change your mind and you'll like this figure better. And to be honest, I'm not super keen on either of them. Like, Null is a fine figure for who he is. I just never really liked the character design all that much. And this Venom, he's just not my favorite Venom. I don't like that he's got the toes. I prefer Venom that's got more like booted feet. This guy's got kind of a really large body. He kind of looks like the movie Venom. And then the wings are just super awkward. They fall apart. They fall off of his back. They don't attach to him very well. So, you know what? Both of those guys are going to get the boot. Okay, so I think these are the last two figures on the desk that I haven't really talked about. So this is Black Chrysanthemum. He is a Wookiee character from Star Wars. He was introduced in the Marvel Comics, and then he later found his way onto the Boba Fett show. He's a character that I like, and that's why I wanted to buy this figure so I could add him to my collection. But I wasn't keen on this figure from as soon as it was revealed. Like, all they did here is they took Chewbacca and they repainted him black. Now, he's got a new head, and he's got like new armor. But this body is clearly Chewbacca, and it's kind of like long and lean, as opposed to how he was portrayed in both the show and the comic book as like a really big, hulking Wookiee. So, I don't know, he looks like he's wearing his daddy's armor. Like, it's just draped on him. Like, I feel like the designers maybe came up with that armor when they were planning on sculpting a whole new body, and then they realized they didn't have the budget, so they just said, we'll just throw it on the existing Chewbacca body, and it doesn't look good. So, yeah, hopefully they do a better version of this character some point in the future. That one just doesn't really cut it for me. And this here, this is the first of the G.I. Joe Ultimates figure from Super 7. Now, I previously talked about the Transformers Ultimates. I got Wave 1 earlier this year, and I was disappointed with them. And I gotta say, I'm disappointed with the G.I. Joe one too. I was so disappointed with this figure that I'm actually going to cancel all the pre-orders of G.I. Joe Ultimates I have. And I have 12 figures pre-ordered right now, because I have Wave 1, 2, and 3 all pre-ordered. And it's not like this is a terrible figure. Like, it looks good and everything. So it's not terrible. If you're collecting these, I don't want to discourage you and tell you they're terrible. But for me, once I got them in hand, I was like, yeah, this thing just isn't worth the $75 to me. So I'm glad it convinced me to cancel all those pre-orders, because that saved me hundreds of dollars. And one of the big problems with him is he's just an awkward scale. Like, this is a G.I. Joe Cobra Battle Android Trooper. And I thought, well, maybe I could, display these two types of G.I. Joes together. But here he is next to a classified figure. Now, it's not too bad with the Bat because he's a robot, and so you could have giant robots. But when I start getting the other human characters in the scale, like Duke and Snake Eyes and stuff, they're going to look really weird with the classified figures. They clearly cannot be displayed together. It's its own line. And you know what? I'm so pleased with the classified figures these days that I just don't need to be collecting G.I. Joe in the 6-inch and the 7-inch scale, especially at that price point. And besides that, it just had some articulation issues I didn't like. It had some quality control issues. So I'm not going to go on and on about it. You can find my review video of this figure if you want to know more. But to my disappointment, this figure is not making my best of the year list. Okay, so here we are. I currently have 15 figures left. These 5 are locks. And then these 10 are all ones that I said were potential. Now, I could push all 15 through, but I'm really trying to keep it down to as close to 10 per video as possible, because ultimately, when I've done my whole series of 6 videos, I want to be down to a final 60 that I can whittle down. And if I don't make it down to 10, then I'm going to have more than 60 in that final video. So let's see. Can I get rid of some of these guys? And I think the answer is yes. Both of these reaction figures, even though I like them a lot, I kind of had the same problem last year where I really liked the Cobra Trooper reaction figure, but I also had the Cobra Trooper classified 6-inch figure. And as great as the little reaction figure was, it couldn't really compete with the larger version of the figure. And with this figure here, I've already got the 6-inch classified Bat going forward to the next round. And so I don't see both Bats making it through. And the classified one is just superior, as great as this one is. And then with this guy here, the robot, like security guard, he's really cool because it's something we never saw before. But, that's the thing. We only saw him for like a minute ever. So even though it's cool to have a figure of him, it's never a character that like I wanted when I was a kid. I never thought, why didn't they make a figure of this guy? I literally saw him on the screen and never thought about him again. So he's really fun, and obviously I like him a lot that I'm thinking about it this much, but he's just not Toy of the Year. And when it gets down to it, as much as I love Mantenna as a character, and if I was doing a best of Masters of the Universe characters list, he would definitely top that list for me this year. It's just when you start seeing these Origins figures, which are very simple compared to some of the other modern figures, he's just a little outclassed. I was in the same situation on my last video where Leech, one of Mantenna's Horde teammates, was down to my final picks, and I just kind of had to boot him out too because he just looked outclassed by all the other lines, and I think it's the same situation here. Sorry, Mantenna. Last Ronin, he's a lock. I like him a lot. Outback, he's a lock. Now, for all the reasons I mentioned with Gung Ho earlier, like he's a great figure, but I've got probably 7 G.I. Joe classified figures. Like there's 3 going through on this video. Like it's a great figure and a huge improvement over the first version that came out, but he's just not my favorite character, and so for that reason alone, he's going. All right, so I've already done pretty good. I've got down to, so what now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Really, I only need to eliminate one more to get down to 10. Um, it's tough. These guys are all really cool for different reasons. Like I said, I think this is a fantastic Princess Leia figure, probably the best they've ever done. But can she compete with like all these cool, monsters and robots and stuff? Like Star Wars, I've always been more drawn to the stormtroopers, the robots, the aliens. My favorite Star Wars characters growing up was Walrus Man and Admiral Akbar and Greedo and Hammerhead. It was never Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and Princess Leia. So yeah, I don't know. Really nice figure, but I think she's gonna go. Sorry, Leia. And yeah, I'm really thinking about Buzz too. It is a cool figure, but he just seems out of place in my collection. It seems a little weird that I would put Buzz Lightyear over a GI Joe or something. And then do both of these guys go through? Like I said, Galvatron made my list last year. Well, whatever. I'm down to 9, so I think that's pretty good. I'm going to push these 9 to go through to the next round. And I just recounted, this is 10. Whatever. So these are my final 10 figures from this video going on to the next video. Okay, so that is the end of episode 5 in this series. Now, I've been putting these out pretty quickly, one after the other, but now you're going to see a lull. I can't do the 6th one yet, because the whole idea of this is I need to review every figure I got this year, and I have to wait and see what action figures I get for Christmas. I might even get a few figures in the last week of the month between Christmas and New Year's, depending on what shows up in the mail, because I do have a couple figures on order and stuff. So yeah, this is the end of this for probably a couple of weeks. So then I'll come back, I'll do episode 6 once I know all the figures I've got this year, and then I'll do my final list where I take that final 60 and I whittle it down to my best 20 of the year. So please make sure to come back for that. I'll probably be posting other videos in the meantime though, so come back for those regular videos. I'm hoping to have Chad over in a couple of days, so hopefully we'll have a video up. Anyway, please make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, come back for the next video, leave me comments below, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.